Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
and I always appreciate somebody who says, "Look, can I find out the truth?"
Great. Yeah. And that's that's what I'm that's what I'm all about. So, and this is this is kind of how I contacted you, because
Yeah.
I've been on a mission for the truth, and obviously I saw some stuff going around
Hmm.
um, regarding yourself and the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah, that was a fascinating one because I've since that came up, I've done some research because the picture itself is with my grandson Alessandro, who lives in Florida,
Sure.
and it was his daddy, my son, that was killed 11 years ago in a car accident, which was very very tough on me. But that's just a picture in Disney, and of course they live in Florida. So when we go over there, Justin, my son here, loves to go to Disney, as most kids do, and
Of
most
course.
adults love to go there. So we go there, and that picture was taken there. Now somebody's obviously gone onto my LinkedIn profile and seen that I'm a silver sponsor for Make a Wish Foundation. But just to put the
Yeah,
record straight, that's Make a Wish Foundation in the United Kingdom,
that's right.
and they're
So
completely separate.
yeah, so this is what I found with my investigation. So yeah, someone had mocked this up,
Yeah, they
and
have.
I looked at it, and it's all uh, different bits that have been sort of collaged together.
Yeah,
And it's you, like you say, you are a silver sponsor for Make a Wish UK, which is a very good cause
yeah.
for children. And so just briefly, what is Make a Wish UK about? Just people that
Make a Wish is providing wishes for children in the last year of their life.
mm,
So children that are dying, which I used to love taking these children around I used to have Lamborghinis, Ferraris, whatever. I used to take them around the race circuit at Castle Combe and different locations because they wanted to go in fast cars, and that was great until I lost my own son. And
yeah,
when it goes from empathy to sympathy, it tears your heartstrings. When you go the following year to the Make a Wish Foundation ball and you're being introduced to the parents and that they've lost their child that you had in your car last year, that's pretty heart wrenching. And you can never, we all lose parents. That happens in life. But when you lose, I've lost my younger brother, I've lost my oldest son. When you lose your eldest son, that changes the dynamic massively
mm,
in an emotional point of view. And my first wife, who was the mother of Lee, who we lost, had a heart attack as a direct result within days of losing my son.
oh dear.
Um, so
I
the,
can't,
the impact is massive. So when you with Make a Wish Foundation, it's a foundation that I believe is a good foundation.
yeah,
And just to set the record straight, with Make a Wish Foundation in America, in
mhm,
Florida, they actually have built a hospital inside Disney, a hospital hotel for children in the last years of their life, or
okay,
last year of their life. Now, I've now found out that the Clinton Foundation actually donated some money to that hotel hospital when they were building it.
right,
And this is quite an important point, Em, that the Clinton Foundation, we now know is not a good organization, but in the past, they have done good things. You can't just do bad things all the way through life. Um, they had to do some good things, and that was probably one of the good things they did. They put money into the building of this hospital that can handle children in the last year of their life, quadriplegics, paraplegics. And that's quite important to point out. It's very easy to say, oh, the Clinton Foundation, evil, evil, evil. Yes,
mm,
we've now seen what they're involved in, which is
yeah,
bad. We get that. But they have done some good things. And that happens to be one of the good things that they did was put money into this hospital, which is in Disney, which even Disney now we now know has been corrupted by the
sure,
evil powers out there. Um, but
yeah,
I think it's important to point that out as a fact that
yeah,
this is where
absolutely,
the link has come. I've never had anything at any stage to do with the Clinton Foundation
yeah. So I mean, obviously,
on
I
any
I,
level.
I try and delve into these things, and when I saw this floating about, at first I thought, oh my god, that's interesting. And I thought, let's break this down and have a look into it. So, I found out that you are a silver sponsor for Make-A-Wish UK, and then I tried to find any sort of ties between that and the Clintons, for which I could not. Actually, it just looked like a very good cause, and I commend you for being a sponsor of it. Obviously under very sad circumstances, and let me just say, I can't even imagine what you must have gone through and what led you to doing that. And I really feel for you with that. But doing that, I think is and being a part of Make-A-Wish UK and sponsoring them. I feel, especially since looking at it and there's no sort of dodgy ties, I commend you being a part of that cause.
No, I appreciate that no end. And there's always people that will jump on the bandwagon. And one thing I'll tell you right now, Em, I have had an interesting past in my life. It's not spotless by any sense of the imagination, but I've never hidden anything from anybody. I've
Great.
got no skeletons that could come out that would destroy anything, because I've always been very open with my history and what I've done.
I do appreciate you coming on to my channel as well. Obviously, the aim today is to clear some things up, but obviously, to connect as well. And it's a really good sign that you'll come on here. I mean, obviously, because part of what I've been doing, I mean, I don't know how much of if you've seen any of my content or know what I've been doing, but is one of the things I've been looking at, or one of the main things I've been looking at, is I've really been delving into Greg Hallett, and looking at his documents, looking at his past, and trying to come to a conclusion of truth with that whole thing. So, I appreciate you coming on my channel today. Obviously, that's not the only thing I want to talk about.
Sure.
This thing with the Clinton Foundation, that people had been sending me. So many people had sent me this sort of image. On your page, it says you checked into the Clinton Foundation. And it surprised me that no one has gone and checked where that check-in has come from, and people can just go on your page and tag you in it to say that you checked in somewhere. And that's exactly what's happened here.
Yeah.
Someone has done a post on the 9th of August saying, something about the Clinton Foundation, and they've just tagged you in it. And as simple as that. You weren't in America. I'm assuming you weren't in America at that time, but you certainly weren't at the Clinton Foundation.
No, I've never had anything to do with the Clinton Foundation. I've never had any contact with them.
And I went one step further. I went through all of the sponsors, which is thousands of pages of the Clinton Foundation sponsors, to see if your name came up. And out of the thousands and thousands of pages that I scanned through at very early hours of the morning, bleary-eyed, there was a Charles L. Ward, but no Charles H. Ward. So even on that,
well, I can categorically say as well that I've never ever changed my name from the day I was born.
Sure, not even to doctor.
Oh no, that the story with that. That was when I think I was about 20 or 22. I mean, 40 years ago. And my license came through, and I just ticked the doctor box.
Yeah.
And it came back Dr. Charles Henry Ward. And I used it once against a parking ticket, and it came back that the parking ticket was thrown out because I was on call. And it was just me being cheeky in my 20s. I'm 60 now.
Yeah.
So it stayed there all my life. Having said that, I've actually done an online degree in psychology. But it's very interesting that people who've been to university don't tend to respect if you've done an online degree as a real degree, even though you've passed and gone through everything, because it's online. In the old days, people knew about the Open University.
I was about to mention, yeah. So lots of people are doing exactly that. Doing a university course at home, and surely that counts.
But otherwise, if anyone's gone to university, they tend to think that because you haven't gone, then yours isn't as valuable as theirs. But look, I've never practiced. It was only purely for my own, just to get an understanding of psychology. And where it actually helped me the most, funnily enough, was when the police were interviewing the guy in Cambridgeshire who killed the two girls. And as he walked out of the front door, the caretaker, Ian Huntley,
Yeah.
as he walked out of the front door, because of my knowledge of psychology, I just looked straight at the television and looked at whoever I was sat with and went, he did it. 100% he did it. I could just tell by the psychology of his body language and the way that he was acting that he was involved.
Interesting.
And I thought to myself then, the police have people that are trained to the highest level, and it's up rated the whole time. They would have clicked onto that as quick as I did, and they would be so much more advanced in their studies than I was, that they would have picked up on that straight away, immediately. But I knew the minute he walked out the front door that he was involved.
Wow, that's some, what would you call it, intuition? Yeah. I mean, to be honest, looking at him, I did have that feeling. I remember back in the papers when this is all coming out, and I feel sometimes you can look at someone and you just get a feeling for whether they're sort of deceitful or not.
Yeah.
Or even, especially if you listen to someone, like you say, mannerisms and things, you can quite often, you can quickly sort of gauge someone's, if they're genuine. And so I think that I have got a bit of a knack for that as well.
Good.
I think that's part of the reason why, I look at people and say, actually, it's worth looking closer into this person, and are they telling the truth?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure sometimes I may be wrong, like anyone.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
So to go back a bit, what I wanted to talk about first, but we actually got sidetracked and went on a couple of points that I wanted to talk about anyway. But one of the reasons that obviously you contacted me was there was sort of a bit of talk around your new platform. So you said you were suspended from YouTube, is that right? And you've been.
I got suspended for the second time 9 days ago.
Right.
I've got another 5 days to go, 14-day suspension. And this, again, was to do with, the first one was the Spanish doctors coming out and saying, telling the truth. And the second one was, again, the medical profession saying that this is all wrong. And I've always said I wanted to have my own platform anyway.
Yeah, sure.
That's what I've wanted since coming on this journey, because as much as YouTube is extremely good and I really enjoy it, it's very, very clear that censorship, it's not a free speech platform. It's only free speech if they agree with you. If they don't agree with you, you get struck down. So exactly, we were asking, we've been talking about this behind the scenes. So we've now launched our own platform. And now we've had a request, and it's not just one request. I mean, we've had over 800 requests for a subscription service where I can talk to people in a group once a week.
Okay.
Now, I was talking to somebody else who is doing this, and they said, look, I do this, and we do a subscription of €11 a month or 99 euros a year. And that covers the costs of the guys behind the scenes that are going to do it all. Because I've always said I don't want to take anything out of it myself, and I won't be taking anything out of it myself. That's not what it's about. It's not about that.
So sort of these costs. So you're obviously spending your own time to come on camera. What is it, once a month or something, or once a week?
Once a week. It'll be done once a week, and it will be done early in the morning on a Saturday for certain countries, and late in the evening on a Saturday, alternate week. So. Or we might even do it twice on a Saturday in the morning and the evening. It all depends. But it'll be up to 3,000 people.
Wow.
I know. That's just mind blowing.
That's quite scary.
It's very, very scary.
Yeah.
But this has all been set up in America, because that's where the demand has come from.
Sure.
And when we put this out, we had 800 requests within the first hour.
Wow, amazing.
And look, I often look at it when I hit 100,000. I was very upset with YouTube because they didn't send me a congratulations. That upset me, and I thought, just because I'm saying things you don't like, you
Yeah.
haven't said anything.
That's quite an
But I look at
accolade.
it.
Yeah. And
Sorry?
that's quite an accolade. And surely,
Yeah,
you
it
know,
is.
I bet everyone that they agree with are getting that, getting something.
They do. They
As
get a
and
nice
when
little
they
award.
get to 100, thousand. So,
But I look at 100,000 as the amount of people you can fit into Wembley.
yeah, wow, that's, you think they like that.
And
That's
if you've got about a dozen people shouting that you're a wanker, it doesn't really gets drowned out by the 99,900 people that actually enjoy what you're doing. And
Yeah.
on my analysis sheet with YouTube, it shows that over 98% success on all my videos,
okay. Was that
which
with
I
likes?
find very, very gratifying. But I've also, just so that you know, I don't read any of the comments, positive or negative, on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, any of them,
Right.
because I find that it can distract from what I'm trying to do. You can get wrapped up in your own, oh, I'm wonderful, or you can get completely destroyed by somebody saying you're a complete tosser.
Yeah. No, I feel you there. Like I said to you before, you get the positive and the negative, but it is nice sometimes to see where people say, look, you've
Because
really helped
I
me.
don't even go on Twitter.
Yeah.
The only reason I go on Twitter, I'll tell you right now, is my daughter is the manager of Birmingham City ladies football team.
Oh wow!
And before she was the manager of Sheffield United.
Wow.
And when she was the manager of Sheffield United ladies, they didn't have television cameras there, so I could only get updates on Twitter. So that's why I'm on Twitter. That's the only reason. But now she's in the Super League, the top league of women's football. They get television there, so I watch it on Twitter, and occasionally I'll get to see it on the television as well.
Wow, that's that. So that's why you.
So that you called me at the time. Your message came through, and it just came up while I was watching my daughter's team. While Birmingham City were playing against Manchester, was it Manchester City? I can't remember who it was now. See, they've just played Chelsea yesterday and lost 1-0. No, it might have been Brighton and Hove Albion, I think it was.
Okay, right, yeah.
Where they beat them on penalties in the cup to go through to the semi-final against Chelsea. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
sorry. Anyway, I'm distracting you there. Sorry, Em.
No, it's all right. I was listening. I was just. I think must have been a bit of luck then that my message got through to you.
Yeah, it was totally.
Yeah.
Because normally I don't do it. Susie looks after my social media, and obviously there's Lee as well, and there's a number of other people behind the scenes that look after that side of it.
Yeah, no, a bit of luck, especially to get an interview the very next morning. So no, again, I do appreciate you coming on. I've got a bit of a good video clip here. Half of it is now irrelevant because we've already talked about it. And there it is. It's about the doctor thing.
I've worked behind the scenes with government now for at least 15 years. Moving currency around the world, and so I've been doing that for a number of years.
I've always been honest
between the super rich and governments, and you tend to find that they're both interlinked. So you get to see things and hear things and work with people. I'll tell you how it started.
So the reason I brought that up is you went to go say, I'll tell you how it started, and then I think that John Mappin might have distracted you, and then but I did wonder, how do you get into that sort of line of work, like moving big money around? I mean, what is your background? How did you get into that?
I was in the hotel and timeshare business for most of my life.
Okay.
And going back 35 years ago in Spain, we used to have the currency called the peseta. But we worked for an English company out of Newcastle that paid us in Gibraltar. Right. So one of us would go down to Gibraltar every week, pick up the cash in pesetas, because we'd be paid in checks. So we'd pay them. It was a bank called Bank of Credit and Commerce that we all banked with. And they'd give us the pesetas, they'd do an exchange rate, and I'd do everybody's checks. And I'd make a little bit of money out of going down on the exchange rate from the pound to the peseta. So that was the foundations of it, if you like. And then you'd have people come and stay on holiday, and they'd bring across pounds, and they wanted to change them into pesetas. So you change that, and I've always made money from changing money,
Okay.
and it's basically just evolved, really.
All right. So I'm guessing you make connections and from there, and
You have people come and stay, and there's a massive range of people that stay with you on holiday.
right.
And it started with, I can't even remember the exact person it started with. I remember when I was in one of our offices in Singapore, and somebody walked into the office and said, I don't know if you can help me, but I need £10,000 in London ASAP. And I said, well, we've got somebody there that can give you 10,000. If you give me Sing dollars here plus 10%, you can have it this afternoon.
Okay.
So he gave me it in Sing dollars. I made a phone call and said, right, could you take that money out of the safe and give it to this person? And they did it. And that was one of the first, that's, I don't know, 20 years ago, I suppose.
Sure.
And it started like that, where people needed money. Nowadays, the world is, if it's cash, it's got to be dirty. And what people don't realize is that, there's a lot of dirty cash out there. Of course there is, but there's an awful lot of clean cash out there. And most people are unaware that if you've got more than 75,000 in the bank, you're not insured for anything above that. So if the bank go bankrupt, which I believe 50% of the banks will go out of business in the next 12 months.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Then you're in trouble. And I've got many people that are taking their money out of the banks right now and putting either keeping it in cash or gold or crypto or whatever, but they're taking it out of the banks.
So to be clear, why is it you think that they're going to go out of business in the next 12 months?
Because we're changing the financial workings at the moment from the old SWIFT fiat currency system to a quantum system. And also what people are unaware of is the banks are incredibly corrupt. I mean, you couldn't make it up. Deutsche Bank have just been exposed last week for $2 trillion worth of fraud to do with drugs, child trafficking, pedophilia, all kinds of things. And it's been exposed, and it's become to light in the London Stock Exchange, where a number of trades last week got cancelled. Now, that when you're dealing with Deutsche Bank is incredibly dangerous, because it shows that. And if you think that Charlie's telling M this, don't think that Donald Trump doesn't know a million times more than Charlie does.
Okay. Yeah. Good point. So another line of work that you were into, I heard you mention on one of your videos somewhere, was that you were employed to take care of security for prisons in the UK.
That was many years ago, and that's now become very, very relevant, because that was 25 years ago. For 3 years, I was doing the access control and closed circuit television for all the prisons in the UK for a company called Sensormatic.
So is that all private and normal prisons, or is it?
Yeah, it was all the government run prisons, and I think the first private prison had only just opened then, which was Fazakerley in Liverpool, from my memory. Because there was 147. It's very easy to remember. There was 147 prisons, because that's the maximum break in snooker. That's why I remember there was 147 prisons in those days, and I visited every single one of them. And that was an education.
So what did that involve? What sort of security? Was it just cameras, or was it
cameras and access control?
Okay.
I was given, when I worked for Sensormatic, I was given the worst street in Bristol to knock the doors on, which was all sort of Pakistani shops going up Gloucester Road that wouldn't spend a penny on anything. And I just knocked one door on Gloucester Road that nobody had ever knocked before, which was the prison. And Bob Dixon was the governor, who I remained friends with for many years. And we started off by doing his visits, which was an area of concern because there was a lot of contraband coming into the prison. They wanted to stop it. And from there, the next prison I did was Exeter, which was Toby Newth, the governor, and became good friends with him, because they gave me an insight. The two of them gave me an insight to the whole prison service.
Sure.
As to what was going on and where their weaknesses were. And it went from there. And it's very much, because it's almost like a brotherhood, the prison officers association, and they talk to each other and say, "Oh, you want to have a word with Charlie? He can sort out this problem and this problem." And it just grew and grew and grew. And for 3 years, that's what I did. We did all the prisons, and then that's what links into where I mentioned the other day about the tunnels, where I had I went to GCHQ in Cheltenham to look at their system, and the first thing they wanted me to do was look at these tunnels to put cameras, and that's where that story sort of came from. That's where.
Oh, okay. Right. Well, one of the other things I'd heard you talk about in one of your videos was you obviously we talked earlier about obviously the tragedy in your life, and it was reported in the newspapers, and it had said that you were an oil tycoon, and you know, I'd heard you talk about it a few times, and you know, one of the times, you know, you kind of said that it'd come out in the newspapers, but you know, who bothers with something like that when obviously you're feeling a lot of grief and things like that at the time? So to clear it up, you weren't an oil tycoon.
No.
Okay.
I've done oil deals
Mm.
because I work at my offices in Dubai,
Mm.
and it has been for the last 12 years. I've done a number of oil transactions, but that doesn't make me a tycoon. I don't know where that came from. I think it's probably, if I look in hindsight, it's very easy. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. When you work in the Middle East and you don't tell people what you do for a living, because when you're moving money in those days, you didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's far more open. In those days, 12 years ago, 11 years ago, you didn't talk about moving money. So people assume that you work in the oil business. It's like you know that people have assumed certain things about me. And my father said to me as growing up as a young man, "Today's newspaper is tomorrow's chip paper. Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
And I've always stuck with that. And the only newspaper that I actually contacted to correct the story was the East Anglian Daily Times, because I grew up in Suffolk. And the
Sure.
editor I went to school with. And I said to him, "I will write out exactly the truth, because I'm not keen on there was a lot of other things in the story that were inaccurate." But I just left it, and I thought, well, we know the truth, and that's all that matters.
Sure. So you fixed or you fixed a couple of oil deals. You bought a few
broken a few deals.
Yeah, but you wouldn't say that you know you were in the oil business.
No.
In here though, on your LinkedIn, you know, it says that you were 8 years in the oil and gas.
Yeah, this is brokering deals. This doesn't make you a tycoon. This makes you a broker.
Oh yeah, I agree. It doesn't make you a tycoon. I found that interesting. I don't know how old this LinkedIn account is, but yeah, that was interesting. So let's talk about this controversy, because I don't understand.
Oh, that was hilariously funny for me, anyway.
So you know, they pointed out this white rabbit, and what, you know,
this one's just for you.
Oh, you got it there. You know, what I've heard from a few people have said that you'd given a couple of different answers. Now, I've not heard you explain this at all. So
Okay.
I you know, I if I had more time beforehand, I would have tried to fish out where you talked about it. However, I've not done that. So this will be the first I'm hearing. What was the white rabbit about? What was it on the poster?
It was very, very simple. We were doing a transaction, and one of my guys said, "If we've started work, stick a white rabbit up on your picture behind you." It was that simple. We were doing something that was discreet, that you don't talk about on the phones, and he just said to me, if it's a go, stick a white rabbit up. And I stuck it up there on the day, and it caused absolute mayhem, which was brilliant.
So I mean, I've seen a few of your videos, Charlie, and you know, I'm very interested by what you do. I mean, I know you do a lot of videos. I thought I'd seen that white rabbit for a while, and I just saw it as part of the background, but maybe I'm wrong. Was it just, did it go up that day and suddenly
it went up that day and it came down that day? And there's a bit of humor because Pimpy, who I know, Lee,
Yeah.
I actually put one up the next day with Pimpy on with a love heart just for a bit of fun to see if that would cause a bigger stir.
Did it cause a bigger stir?
No, people suddenly realised that it was nothing more than a bit of fun. That's all it was, and it's amazing how people read into things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that, and then I saw that you'd blocked him, this guy. And
look, I haven't blocked anybody. I don't deal with my social media.
That's the Be Nosy account. So is that your?
Okay. Yeah, that's where that be. Lee manages all my social media.
And I was sent this as well, and because I asked, what's the controversy around? Why?
Yeah.
Why is it a big deal? And someone, sort of one of the sort of big Q accounts, was sort of sending me messages, and they just sent me this, and trying to say that the White Rabbit is a name for human traffickers, and this is why it was.
No, it had nothing to do with that. Had absolutely nothing to do with that. The White Rabbit, in my opinion, had to do with Alice in Wonderland looking down a rabbit hole. That's where I know it from. There's always other people's interpretation. But that was nothing to do with that either. It was all to do with the question that I was asked to do with our own business. That had nothing to do with anything to do with social media. And it was just simply just an answer that we'd started work on a certain project.
Sure. So your popularity, I mean, I've seen you in a couple of videos say I started with 37 followers and here I am, I mean, what are you on now? Like, on YouTube, I know you've moved platforms.
YouTube, I think we're 175,000, but it's been stopped. They've actually stopped anybody subscribing at the moment on the ban.
That's
and then on our secondary channel, we've got 29,000, I think.
So,
but the numbers were only relevant when I hit 100,000, and they didn't do anything. Now, I'm not so much worried about the numbers. I'm just worried about getting the message out there. The numbers but it's an amazing number. I mean, it's incredible.
What I mean, it is. That's outstanding. That's great for you. What do you think has owed to this sharp rise in popularity, as it were?
I think in a world full of bullshit, people are quite happy to hear some truth, because the one thing with truth is it makes sense. The one thing with lies, they don't make sense.
Absolutely. The truth is not bias.
No.
And
truth doesn't care about your feelings.
Exactly. And no matter how much someone may bullshit, as you say, the truth will always come out in the end. Especially when you've got people, who are really sort of avidly knocking on the truth's door, as it were.
I've got another truth seeker coming on today as well, called Justice.
He's coming on today. Fantastic.
He was going to come on the 15th, but I think he might have got wind of the fact that you were on. And he wanted to get on quickly, so.
Yeah. I do actually communicate with Justice. We've done a few videos together.
Okay.
So I did actually just sort of tip him off, because I was aware that he was going to be coming on your show at some point.
Yeah, he was due in on the 15th, but I brought him forward to today.
Fantastic. Oh, that's great. That's great news. So where was going? We talk about popularity. Yeah. What about sort of Greg Hallett? I mean, was that a big thing, for your rise in popularity?
I think that had an impact, definitely. But this is something that with Greg Hallett, when I started this journey, it was all about, because I knew behind the scenes they were going to collapse the world's economy. That's the whole thing. And then Greg Hallett came to my attention through Jack Kidd, who's a friend of mine.
Sure.
And Jack said, we should investigate this guy. And I'd never heard of him. And we did an interview with him, and he seemed an interesting character. And I'll be brutally honest with you. I'm still 50-50. I haven't got a clue whether it's true or not. But we're giving him the airtime to see whether it is true or not, see where it goes. And Dave Mahoney, who's also a friend of mine, who's a film producer, said, look, can I have sole rights to this? And can I do a documentary? I said, more than welcome, no problem whatsoever. So he's done this documentary, which he's trying to establish what's right and what's wrong. Now, there's a lot of people out there that go, oh, he's definitely not, and he definitely is. I've got a completely open mind, because he's he said right from the start that he's not the bloodline, but he's the spiritual line. Now, the one thing I've learned about spirituality is I'm learning a lot more about spirituality over the last 5 months than I've ever learned in my life. There's a lot more to it than I know. So I've given him the benefit of the doubt. And I've said to Dave to try and establish what's right and what's wrong. Greg's getting an awful lot of signs that are shown to him that makes him believe that he is King John III. It's in America, it's created an absolute storm. Yeah, we hit 35,000 views in no time at all on the teaser video.
Yeah.
People are fascinated. But the other thing that I'm going to take up with Justice later on today is Justice has jumped all over it, but nobody's jumped all over the Queen.
Yeah.
Because she's not the official bloodline.
I find it fascinating, and I think that if it's done good in exposing some of how the current monarchy is corrupt, I think there is some good in that. However, my problem is you say that he never claimed to be the bloodline lineage. In fact, it was about the signs. However, in his documents, he does provide a whole list, a lineage line, a ancestry tree leading back to Anne Boleyn. He does and has claimed ever since around he wasn't claiming this back when he was writing The Hidden King with Francisco Manuel. And, he'd obviously, as has been said, he received signs, and then recently it's sort of come to light that a Rosicrucian society chose him over Francisco. Decided to swap them, as you said in one of your videos, because he was getting signs. But then since then he has produced documents pertaining that he is from a bloodline that comes from Anne Boleyn. So he has been claiming that, and I did do a video looking into that, and I actually got some help from his family as well for birth certificates, censuses that they'd picked up from the time in the area of Brighton area, from his family, and their ancestry.com findings as well. And then I looked at his actual lineage in his documentation, and researched that, and there's a lot of claims in that there was no sort of evidence for. And I kind of asked through the video and asked his fans to kind of ask him, because again, I'm open-minded, so if there is evidence there, I'm just seeking the truth. And if he was going to come back and say, okay, well, here you go, this is where I found out this about my lineage, then I'd look into that. But obviously there's been no response, and it was only recently, I don't know if so obviously there was a lot of controversy around when you had come on, was it River's Edge? Was that the lady's video?
Kelly Rivers from the River's Edge. That's right. I came. What I wanted to do, and this is probably the most important thing, Em, I'm trying to provoke people to ask questions.
Sure.
Because one thing that's really frustrating me right now is people are just accepting what comes out of mainstream media and not doing what you're doing. You're doing research, which is incredibly valuable. And people need to do what Em is doing right now, find out the truth, because at the moment, people believe the media. So what I did there was poke people and say, this is time for you to start finding out what the truth is. Because I was speaking to a spiritualist who said to me, because I asked the question, I said, this King John, Greg Hallett, tell me how you see it. And she said to me, he's not the solution, but he's part of the solution. Sure. And the way I read that is we need to be questioning the current lineage of the royal family. We need to look at where they are, as to why they are where they are. We need to be asking questions about what, the legitimate. Do we need a royal family? That's another question that we need to look at.
I don't think that we do, and this was part of when I first heard about Greg Hallett, I I was very interested because it could mean that the current monarchy could be overthrown. But then, as I sort of looked more into things, you know, I thought, well, hang on a second, who is this guy? You know, that everyone, you know, lots of people are saying let's throw him on the throne. He's going to be better than the current queen. I said, well, that's not a good enough reason.
That's not. No, it's not good enough.
To throw someone on the throne. So it's all very well. Obviously, you're saying the reason being to sort of prod people awake. You know, go out and find the truth. But the problem that I have with that is, you know, in an age where everyone is so used to being led by obviously the mainstream media, like you say, and we're trying to break away from that, people are very easily misled. And when it's sort of promoted and not challenged, so you say about the critical thinking, but part of the issue that I had around sort of the documentaries that are coming out from obviously between Greg and your friend David, and a lot of the videos from, you know, June onwards up until recently, where, you know, we haven't really seen Greg for a while, was that there wasn't kind of any probing in them. It was more kind of giving him airtime to talk. And this is, and obviously it got very popular. So, you know, I got very concerned with how many people were not looking into. And this is the problem I have with it. We're not looking at the facts. We're not thinking for themselves. In fact, they were just kind of riding this wave of, wow, he must be the new king. No one's challenging him. So let's jump on this wave. And how amazing is this? And when I tried to tell people, when, you know, he was obviously at one point on his social account, he was raising money, I think, for documents, and then he spent him on a new server, and I kind of said, well, that, you know, it's a red flag, guys. So just be careful. Don't throw what you can't afford at this or anything like that, you know. And then obviously his sisters came and did a video, and I watched that, and I thought that they seemed very kind of, you know, normal. But he was saying, look, they're drug addicts. They run drugs for the Queen. The deep state has paid them off, and everyone went, oh, okay, that's the excuse then. And I was like, guys, you know, he said that, but we don't know whether we can trust Greg Hallett yet.
Yeah,
so
no, I agree.
Watch the video. You know, watch the video and think for yourself. And people go, I don't need to watch the video. I know that they're druggies. No, this is the sort of thinking that, like you were saying, that we need to try and avoid. You know, if people have gone, right, let's not watch BBC anymore, and if you watch BBC, you're a sheep. Don't then listen to someone else and go, well, this is the real news, and not question it. It makes no sense, and it really worried me. In fact, it frightened me that so many weren't thinking of this critically. And I've always said, you know, if I'm wrong, I hold my hands up. But at least I was there pressing for the truth. At least I was probing, trying to get to the bottom of it, and, you know, watching out for everyone else. Because if it's all a lie and people are being misled and people are giving money, then you know, a lot of people are going to be hurt. And who wouldn't want someone trying to watch their back and you know, try and see if there's any holes in the story. And the thing is I found a lot of holes, and all I want is answers to those holes. And you know, if we don't get them, then, you know, that's very telling. So I don't know if you know, if, you know, at the time where you did that video with on the River's Edge channel, if you saw my video, basically it highlighted that part of the video, where you were talking to her, and when I put that out, I think because your YouTube channel had been taken down, and I'd seen it on BitChute, I think it was, and when I saw it, I was like, wow, this is very interesting, guys. And I highlighted it to people, and it kind of, you know, I'm a new YouTuber, you know, I was only getting a few thousand views on my videos, but suddenly I had 28,000 views out of nowhere on this one video.
Well done.
Thank you. So, you know, I kind of owe some of that success to yourself, because I said in that video, I mean, let's watch a little bit of the video. I made a short sort of 4 minutes of it.
I'm going to give you a bombshell piece of information. 10, 15 years ago, he and one other guy, who are friends or were friends, his friend was the actual bloodline to be King John III. His friend was. And the agreement was that he was going to be the crown prince to his friend. And then it turned out 10, 15 years ago that Greg Hallett was getting signs coming to him, and the signs weren't coming to the other guy. So they basically agreed to switch roles. So that Greg assumed the role that he was going to be King John III, and the other guy was going to be the crown prince. They agreed with that. And then they fell out. And that's why all the books of those histories have been destroyed. And I knew that information right from the start. But I just thought, I'm going to give you the airtime and see if you actually tell everybody what has happened. And he's chosen at this stage not to do so. If he chooses to tell everybody that, then I think it would do an awful lot of good. Dave Mahoney knows the truth. Lee Dawson knows the truth. Jack Kidd knows the truth. I'm not going to force him to tell the truth.
Charlie Ward has just admitted that he knew that Greg Hallett all along was not the real King of England.
There you go. Right. So, in that video, I commend you because, there was sort of something that you guys knew about the story, and you were you say in the video that you were giving him some airtime, and you wanted to see whether, he kind of come forward and highlight this part of the story that they hadn't focused on, wasn't in any of the documentaries. And ever since sort of Greg had got involved with yourself, Dave Mahoney, Jack Kidd, this part of the story was avoided, wasn't really touched. And you say to Kelly, that, you're the first person to know this outside the group. Although, Greg had talked about it before he met you guys, in a way. I sort of say in the video later on that, I have to give you credit for coming forward, and I hope that sort of they can talk about this and clear it up, and which David Mahoney did. He came straight on to. Well, he tried to anyway. He made videos over the next few days. At one point, he kind of said that I'm going to get Greg on a Q&A, a Zoom call to clear things up. For which we've not seen Greg since I think the 11th of September. So
I haven't actually had I haven't spoken to him for 3 months. I've never ever met him.
Yeah, that was one of my questions later, actually. So you've never physically met him. You've just been on Zoom calls.
Been on Zoom conversations with him. I've spoken to him a couple of times on Skype, but I haven't spoken to him for 3 months.
Yeah,
it was a month or 6 weeks period on this journey that we gave the airtime. But then Dave wanted to take total control, so I allowed him to do that, and still allowing him to do that because Dave still believes there's something there that's worth pursuing, and all power to him. At the moment, I'm just sat here with a completely open mind as to whether it's true or not. There's a number of pointers that suggest that there's something there in the fact that he has submitted all his legal documents to the court. He wouldn't do that.
So with the court, so this is the sort of cyber court, isn't it? The common law court.
The common law court, yes.
Yeah. And they were meant to be, if they weren't contested by, I think it was the 20th of July.
Yeah.
They were meant to mean something. But we've seen.
But I haven't followed the journey on that at all.
Yeah. After that date, it was said, oh well, Putin didn't get the mail. Apparently, the Royal Mail had delivered it to the wrong address and
the wrong Kremlin.
Yeah, exactly. So Putin didn't get the invite, and then later on, it was just kind of brushed aside, and we've not seen anything from that. You say you've not followed it. Lots of people were waiting for that 20th of July, and this is part of the other problem that I've got. Before that, Greg was saying, he said in one of your videos, actually, just waiting for the paint smell to go, for the paint to dry and for the smell to go, and then I can sort of ride into Buckingham Palace on my white carriage and wave. And lots of people were saying to me when I was questioning it, you wait till next week when he gets into Buckingham Palace. And, you know, obviously that was back in July, or, you know, early July. And sort of a lot of people, you know, I kind of felt bad for them because, you know, it wasn't as if they weren't told that. You know, he was saying that he was going to be there. And then, you know, obviously through these great documentary, you know, greatly produced documentaries, you know, the content I questioned, but you know, the documentaries that they've made, you know, look really smart. And in the end of one of them, you know, they make a big thing about these documents being submitted, and gave a date, you know, 20th of July. And so lots of people will say, well, you know, you wait till 20th of July, we'll know then, you know, you'll have egg on your face. And what are we now? We're in October, and nothing's come from it. And you know, again, I felt bad for these guys, and I think that some of them got really fed up. Like, you know, hang on, you can't give us these kind of little promises, and not give us anything for it, and not really explain it afterwards. And I don't think that's, you know, down to David. You know, David Mahoney doesn't need to explain that. Greg needs to explain that, or Greg needs to explain what's going on.
No, I agree with that.
So that video, like I said, you know, caused some controversy. And where are we? So did you ever actively support Greg Hallett, you know, sort of promote him in any way?
What I gave him the platform, but I kept a very open mind as to whether it was true or not. I you know, when it came to me, I thought it was a complete and utter joke right at the start, because I'd never even thought outside the box.
Sure.
I'm one of those people. I'd never even questioned the royal family.
Yeah.
I just hadn't done it. And it was only when he came onto my radar through Jack Kidd that you suddenly asked questions. And we started by doing, I think, 1 or maybe 2 interviews with him to hear his story. And then Dave Mahoney came along, and support's the wrong word. It's I treat people with respect. I travel the whole world over, and have done for many, many years. I've been into some rough areas in Mexico, some rough areas in Africa, and nobody's killed me because I respect people, human beings. I don't care where you come from. So people said, oh, but you called him King John III. Well, that's what he asked to be called, so that's what I called him. And when people say to me, call me this, it's a mark of respect. Like with you, you said to me, call me M, I'll call you M. When people say this is my title, there's time. Look, when I work in the Middle East, there's a lot of kings and princes who you call your highness. They're never your royal highness. It's only the British royal family. It's your royal highness, your holiness, your grace. There's all different people that this is how you talk to them. And I've always been respecters. I've never looked up to anybody. I've never looked down on anybody. I treat everybody with the same respect. Black, white, man, woman, I don't give a monkey's.
Mm-hmm.
It's about respect. People say, well, you said God bless King John III. I said, yeah, I did say that. I've got no problem with that. God bless every single human being on this planet, right? Especially right now. It's a mark of respect. And I think the people in the world need to learn a lot more about respect. Just because the governments don't respect us, that's irrelevant. It comes down to us as human beings making a stand and being respectful for each other.
I fully appreciate what you're saying, and that's a great answer for why, obviously, you'd said the real King of England at one point, but that was in your, like, I think the first.
That's probably tongue in cheek.
Yeah, I get that, and obviously with the God bless King John III, I get that, you know, God bless everyone, but when, for me, the clip that I'd seen of that is, you know, you sort of say God bless the children, God bless Donald Trump, and God bless King John III. Now, to put him in that sort of to mention him amongst those other 2 things and not mention anything else, that kind of almost gives him a air of importance, as if he's
well, no, I disagree with that, because the video was about the 3. That's why I said at the end of the 3, that was the three subjects I was talking about.
All right.
On-
Okay. That kind of explains that. Yeah.
If I just said
I think
that,
that's why a lot of people sort of wonder about that, because it does seem a bit odd, unless you are a supporter or you believe his story, for him to be put with the other two. But if that video was
the video was all about the
Greg
children
Hallett,
and Donald Trump rescuing the children, and about King John III or Gregory Hallett, whatever you want to call him.
okay.
That was the subject matter, and I finished off with that.
So you say in that video that we were talking about before, that you knew from the start about the sort of lineage thing. Is that true? You knew from
the first interview.
Yeah.
We went into this subject because this is quite an interesting point from your point of view. I've had close to 1,000 messages that said that he was very, very clear in the first video about this situation, which put me on the back foot, because I thought it was only just me in our private conversation. But they said, no, he made that clear right from the very start. And that shook me, because I was like, oh, really? Okay. And he was far more clear about it than I remembered from day one, about the lineage and about his rights and what have you. He does, in the early one, he does tend to avoid a number of questions. He's very good at that. That's just his way, from what I understand.
Yeah.
So we had more complimentary messages than we had negative messages, which was quite interesting.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, really love the whole idea of it, and
Yeah.
I can see why. It's very appealing, especially when the idea is behind trying to expose an evil. But
Yeah.
my quest for the truth was to make sure we're not replacing one with another.
Out of the frying pan into the fire.
Exactly that. Yeah. And so I just want to make that clear, because some people say, I've had all sorts. I've had people say, well, if you're questioning this whole narrative, you must be a paedophile. You must be, you must love the Queen. Well, no, I don't. I really don't. But you need to be careful, especially at a time where we're talking about a transition from the old to the new. You want to be very careful that the new is not like the old, or even worse than the old. And you can never be too careful. And that's all I'm doing.
Sure.
Is just trying to, like I said before, trying to watch everyone's back. Because if we find ourselves next year with a new king, and the moment he gets on the throne, he turns nasty, and there were signs beforehand in some way, or does something, I'm not saying that this will happen. I'm just saying, if that were to happen, if that was a scenario came to light, then people would go, well, why didn't we see this before? Why did no one question it? Why did no one look into his past? And I'll be over here sort of going, hey, I did. I said some things, you didn't listen. And because I have looked into his past extensively. Yourself, you said I think you said in this interview, or it might have been, I'm not sure if it was in this interview or whether it was me watching your videos, but you said about sort of growing up in a cult.
Religious cult, yeah.
Yeah, and there's kind of Greg also spent some time in a cult. I mean, I don't know if you were aware of that.
No, I wasn't.
So in 1980, 1981, he was in a place called Centrepoint.
Okay.
And this was a commune, it was known at the time.
Okay.
In New Zealand. And I was really interested to find this out, because first of all, I thought, I'd heard him talk about sort of the psychology of altering consciousness, and that kind of made me think of, because at times I felt that people that I've spoken to that have been fans have almost been, I know it's a horrible thing to say, but kind of brainwashed by it. But I don't mean that as in like, they've been hypnotized, as in like the kind of like with blinkers. Someone told me he's the king. I believe him. He's got to be the king. And it was interesting to see. I've got video footage of a documentary made in 1980 when when Centrepoint was just a commune and had a spiritual leader, and the way he talked and everyone were listening to him kind of paralleled with how I saw sort of Greg talking, and people kind of just taking in what he says. But yeah, he was there 88 for like 2 years. But years later, it came to light that at least six people. I mean, it was basically a sort of sex cult. It was like a freedom.
Wow.
Sort of everyone. There was a kind of people were kind of walking around naked. It was kind of a very kind of was it freedom and love and all that sort of thing. And but later on, it came to light that 6 people in the cult were convicted of child abuse charges. And lots of people came forward, sort of saying, and I'm not saying that Greg was involved in the child abuse, but I was highlighting when I'm looking into his past.
Mm-hmm.
But he was friends with some of the people that were convicted. And I felt that was you can't judge people by who they've associated with necessarily in the past. But you certainly can. Obviously, it's important to take note of it, especially when it's sort of something like that.
That sort of information is valuable to people like Dave Mahoney, because he's managing that side.
Yeah. I put out a video on it. David Mahoney is aware of some of it. But it's not. I've brought it to light, and some sort of people have started talking about it. But it's one of those, again, sort of, we haven't seen Craig in a while, and he hasn't. I mean, it would be worth him sort of just talking about it. Okay, well. That's been brought up. All right. Well, let me just tell you. I will say a bit about it, and then I don't really want to talk about it anymore. Because it's not a nice thing to talk about. I don't know. It might have been. He might have good memories. Apparently, it was when he lived there. It was. He did. I don't want to say enjoy himself, but he was happy living there for a while, and some people were. But yeah, it'd be good for that, amongst many other things, to be cleared up. Is all I was getting at with that. After you did that video, again, and I keep talking about this video, but when I done it, it caused a massive bit of controversy. And what was your conversation like with David Mahoney after that?
No,
he said that you owe him a gin or something next time.
No, I don't. I'd said to him before I'd even mentioned it that I was.
Okay.
I felt it was wise to say something.
Yeah.
I don't think I took it too seriously until I did it. And boy, that went off with a bang. And we're still great friends.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, there's absolutely no issue with us, and I don't think he expected it to explode like it did.
Right.
But I've got a very clear conscience about it. I want the truth to be out there.
Sure. I think that's important. And again, that's why, I did say, I did kind of commend you in that video, because, at least we're getting some, if there's something to be said, Charlie's come forward and said it. So, I found that important. So where was I? Then you did say, you said this.
I purposely put a spanner in the works.
You purposely put a spanner in the works. What does that mean?
But I wanted to make things clear, because I just felt the waters were getting muddy, and I didn't like it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just felt it was time to give a little poke, to say, come on, let's get this on track and get it accurate, rather than just be airy fairy about it.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's fair enough. What is your? At one point, you set up a fundraiser for the King.
I did, right at the very start, which I stopped fairly quickly.
Yeah, that's true. You deactivated it, but you said as soon as I found out, I deactivated it.
Yeah, when I deactivated it, because it was causing unnecessary. I was asked to set it up from the start. It's not something I chose to do. It was something that I was asked to do.
Okay.
I set it up, and since then we've had a nightmare, because we've got 2 or 3 other people who've set up ones in my name.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that.
Completely fake accounts.
This one here, look, GoFundMe. It's still live, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is not you.
No, it's not me at all. And I
That
looked
was
down,
created at the end of June.
yeah. But I noticed down here that it was Charles Ward from Oxford, is it? Further down.
Regent's Park.
Oh, Regent's Park. No, that's nothing to do with me. It never has been.
Okay. Well, glad we can clear that
But
up as well.
that's one of 2 or 3 that was set up in my name.
Yeah. Interesting.
We've got an investigation going on at the moment, ongoing investigations to who it is or whatever.
I'm glad to hear that. Actually, it doesn't look like that one had any donations, or either that or they've been wiped. I don't know.
But I put as soon as people let me know, I filed a complaint immediately.
A couple of people had sort of shown me messages where you'd refunded them.
Yeah.
Which is great to see.
Anybody that had asked for their money back, we sent it straight back.
Although this one hadn't, but this is from a long time ago. I think.
If I remember rightly, there was a woman that wanted a refund to Australia, and we sent it back, and it came back to us again a month later. But because the account had been closed, it was bouncing between the two.
Oh, okay. So I think she's actually a friend of mine. She was a very avid supporter of Greg at the time, and actually I got a lot of stick off her when I tried to show some information that could allude to him not being as genuine. So any of the information I found, I was trying to share it with people and just say, look for yourselves, make your own mind up. But she didn't take kindly to it at the time. And then sort of later on, she kind of apologised and said, "I'm sorry, I was a bit nasty to you about it all. I've looked into it, and actually, I also believe that it's not genuine, and I'm going to try and get my money back." She did say she shared an image of me saying that it was rejected. That you put out, you tried to send it back. It showed that it was pending or something, and then it said that it hadn't gone through, and then. Last thing she sent me was this message just saying, where's my money? But she's since said, well, I've given up on it. So I don't know if you've still got her in your contact list. It might be worth.
I'll get the administration team to follow that up for you. No problem at all.
Great. I don't even know what that's about. So I just want to quickly mention Rice Crypto. You said in one of your videos that thanks to him, you started looking into things a bit more.
Look, I like him a lot, but he's a very typical American. He's very much a bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
And I just said to him that there's more than one way to go about this, but he was going about it his way, which conflicted with the way that I would do things. Sure. We all have our own different ways of doing things. But he was, he became like a scorned lover. Like, if you don't tell me, I'm going to put 10 videos out about you. I went, and that sort of behavior to me, I've been threatened many times in my life. You can imagine in my job, I've had guns put to my head. I've had knives put to my throat in my life. So when you get some guy shouting down the phone, you're like, behave.
So he was shouting it. He was shouting down the phone at you.
Oh, he was just threatening. I'm going to do videos of this, videos of that. And I'm not the right person to threaten. I don't get intimidated. And I think also, having lost my firstborn son, I've lost my fear of death, because if you're going to kill me, it's fine. I'm going to go and see my son.
Okay.
It's not a big deal to me. And that's a bit dangerous at times, especially when people threaten you. It spooks them out completely.
He didn't threaten to kill you, did he?
No, he didn't. But when people start threatening, I'm going to put videos out, it's like, grow up.
Right.
And that's when people start doing that sort of thing, I just go, do you know what, mate? Sling your hook.
Okay.
I blocked him, and he got really upset.
Yeah. Well, I have done a video with Rice, and he said,
I like him. He's a good lad.
Yeah, I do. I do like him.
He just gets emotional. He must be a woman. It just happens once a month with him. He gets emotional.
I mean, he did say in the video with me that he kind of apologised for letting the emotions get the better of him. I don't know if that kind of. I think that kind of extended to the people he was talking to at the time as well. So I think that he did kind of say, "Look, guys, I did get kind of a bit wound up about the whole thing, and I did let my emotions get in the way. And he said, you know, I won't let that happen again. You know, I'm a journalist.
I'll have another chat with him without any
Yeah.
problem at all. But at the moment, because look, he came back to me last week and said he wanted to do an interview, and I was in bed with laryngitis. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I couldn't talk
Of course,
anyway.
of course.
Not only that, but I've got 4 bookings a day for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So when you take a week out, suddenly where do you put them all?
Mhm.
I worked Saturday and Sunday to try and clear some of the backlog. So yeah, no, I'll definitely talk to him because I do like him. But
I just wanted to raise it because, you know, he'd said that he was hoping to get a interview with you, and then he said he was blocked, and I was just happened to be talking to him last night, and he was like, you know, put in a word for me. He just asked. I was like, all right, I'll mention it. Okay, you know.
I call him Rice Krispie.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think he used to go by that.
Sorry,
DJ Crispy or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But anyway, so Jack Kidd's your friend, and he was the guy that kind of found Greg, put
That's right.
Put you onto him.
Yeah.
So you've known him. I'm guessing you've known him a number of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, have you heard about? Like, people have sort of dug up things showing that he's connected to Ghislaine Maxwell through.
Well, that's an interesting thing because that was Gemma's business.
Yeah.
Gemma's friends with Ghislaine. Jack's never ever met her. Never.
Okay. Yeah. No.
He was on the company. He was on the same company which Gemma had.
Yeah, that's right. His name was
back onto there as a director, and I think Ghislaine Maxwell was on there as well. From what I know from Jack, but he's never ever met her.
Yeah. What about the so obviously that's showing that, yeah, and Jack Kidd was on the company as well. I found that interesting.
His sister's company.
His sister's company, but he also on there a shareholder, Lord Rothschild, which is quite interesting. Do you know anything about his connection to Rothschild?
Well, I know that the families are the Shan kids. They're part of the British royal family.
Sorry, say that again.
The Kidd family are linked to the royal family. They're the Shan kids, aren't they?
Yeah.
So when you consider Jack was very, very closely linked because of the polo as well.
Yeah. I'm guessing that's what that photo is from, polo. Yeah,
it is. And Gemma was married to one of the dukes or the count of somebody or other. They've just split up.
Okay.
But they were together for many years. But yeah, that's what made Jack, I think, sort of stand out, where he'd seen a lot of things that he wasn't keen on in his life, and he's chosen a different path. Sure. So you've got 2 different families there. You've got the De Rothschilds, which is the French side, and then you've got Rothschilds, which is the other side.
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, Lord Rothschild isn't David de Rothschild.
No,
but the the link there, and I wanted to look into that. Sure. I thought I'd ask you to see if you knew anything more, because it's one thing to have a bit of paperwork. But I've not heard Jack sort of talk about it. So and the way you put it gives a bit more sort of background. So
no, I know Jack, and I know Jack's mum, Wendy, ever so well, because we stayed with her when we got married in Barbados.
Okay.
So we know, but I don't know Gemma. I've never met Gemma.
Okay, that clears that up. I say clears that up. I mean, I just
And I asked
your view or
I asked Jack at the time, and he's never met Ghislaine Maxwell ever. It was Gemma's side.
Okay. I'm going to show you a quick clip of one of my videos. I'm near the end of my list of questions, but I wanted to get your take on this.
Cinderella, right? The 2 ugly sisters. So I'm going for the throne, and I've got 2 ugly sisters and an evil mother who are trying to draw me back, sabotage me, do everything they can so I can't get to Buckingham Palace throne room, right? And I've got 2 really ugly sisters. My brother said to me once, he said, "You realize your 2 sisters are throwbacks?" And I said, what's the throwback? And he says, when they come out of the womb, you want to throw them back in, right? Whoa, yeah. So I've got two ugly sisters who are they've always kind of just haunted me. And then my brother's apparently putting up that he's the King of England. You know, so it's like they can't even work together. They've had so much drugs, right?
Just one quick thing though, you haven't actually seen them for how many years?
Quarter of a century. I've stayed away from them for over a quarter of a century, since 1993.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Amazing what they've got to say for themselves, considering they haven't spoken to you for a quarter of a century.
they're ugly. They're two ugly sisters, and they get no attention. So as soon as I get my first spike of attention, I've been trying to delete my family for a quarter of a century, but they keep just hanging on and you know, just coming out with all this bullshit story, just following me around spreading rumors.
Yeah.
And it's really horrible, but it is the fulfillment of the Cinderella story.
Yeah.
And my mother's equally as evil, and they would just sabotage everything I did.
And watch Charlie Ward. Watch how about 7 minutes in of just one insult after the other. Watch his face. He looks fed up.
Okay.
You know, that sort of sabotage, right? Yeah. And my elder sister is possessed. Right? She's actually a witch. She laughs like a witch. And my other sister, Tam, is like, I didn't know what gender she was. Right? My friends would come around, you know, my rowing friends, because I was on the senior 8 rowing and the senior 4 and the senior A basketball, and I was the top point scorer of the second 15 and that. And all my buddies would come around and they go, oh, I had a chat to your brother. I go, what? I mean, your sister.
I think
we don't know. We don't know. We don't know what, you know. And she's slow, you know, she was slow. She was, I was in the A stream and she was in the, just above the ones that walk,
the entry level.
the ones that walk like this, you know. She's an
Well, I think we've established why they're having a dig. So if we can move on from there,
please.
The journey.
His comedy, though, is always at somebody's expense.
Yeah, which again is not
Their physicality or their mentality,
Their sexuality,
their intelligence, just
the way they walk, anything. Yeah, he's very cruel in that respect.
very
And he's been like that for
always
a
like,
long time. Yeah.
he's always been like
Yeah, so basically what was happening is that Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth II were the biggest heroin suppliers on the planet, and they were targeting our family with heroin from a very young age. And the people that were organising children to be drug dealers was the Minister of Broadcasting, Sir Roger Douglas. And instead of getting convicted of pedophilia, he got a traffic fine and was given a knighthood.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Fascinating.
So that's what we're up. That's what we're up against. So as we speak.
If we start with the line, the bloodline, and the
Right. So, watching that. I mean, have you seen that video before?
I've never watched it back. No, it's dear, you can see how uncomfortable I am with it.
This is the point I was making. So, yeah, throughout the video, I mean, I watched it. When you watch it, I mean, obviously that's cut up a little bit, you know, but these are the words he said, and highlighting the way he talked. I mean, it was really bad, and you could visibly see how uncomfortable you were. You kept trying to change the subject, because by this point, I think it had been like 8 minutes of solid. You know, I think he said
of insults, wasn't it?
Yeah, it said 7 times. I think it was 7 times. My sisters are ugly. You know, these are not facts. This is a scorned opinion. You talk about scorned lovers. I know that it's personal. You know, it's his family. But it was really, you know, it came off really bad, and I highlighted that. But yeah, you know, I did note, you know, and as I left that little bit in the short clip where I kind of say, you know, look at Charlie. He's obviously not comfortable with this. You know, he knows it's looking bad at the time. But yeah, looking back at it, what do you think now?
Watching it then.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more. I mean, I think at the time as well, you know, you're physically there. You're obviously uncomfortable, but watching it back, you probably have a whole new outlook on it. So, I mean, what do you feel? You know, looking back.
I'm still with everything, that all the positives and the negatives. I'm still going to allow Dave Mahoney the respect and to carry out and find out the truth. I'm on purpose. I've been pulled both ways, positive and negative. And I'm just going to wait and see. I'm not in a hurry to find out.
Sure.
I just want him to find out what's true and what's not true. But when you see that kind of behaviour, and this is where I think the spiritual side comes in, that he's not the solution, but he's part of it. What he's doing is he's getting you and me to ask questions as to who should be in charge, and should we have a royal family. I think that's more important than the whether he's what he is as a person. I don't think you know, I can see him walking into Buckingham Palace. That's my personal view, but who knows? I don't know. That's just a Charlie observation.
Yeah, I you know, I appreciate you sort of saying that, and not, you know, I know you're sort of allowing your friend David, who's, you know, actually doing the investigation, or investigation is for me a bit of a strong word on that, because, you know,
I understand your view, because you've done a lot of work, and I appreciate the work that you've done.
Thank you. I really do appreciate you saying that, Charlie. It would seem, you know, he says at the beginning of his documentaries, you know, we are impartial and we're here to investigate, but I've not seen a lot of critical analysis or any tough questions coming from him. I think that's really, really important to look at, and I hope that that David, you know, through all of his positive messages, and I know that he's trying to stay on a positive vibe with it all, but let's be real, you know, at the end of the day, there's no point of ferrying around and sending a love and light message. You can't, you know, at the end of the day, the truth is a positive thing, whether or not you're being negative trying to get there. It's very important. And so the point I wanted to make by that video was, I didn't make it to be kind of on a negative energy with it, and to like sort of, oh, look, you know, look how terrible he is, because I enjoyed, you know, getting, I enjoyed putting it out there. It wasn't about that. It was about, you know, that's scary. You know, you want to put this guy on the throne, okay? Just look more closely at some of his behaviours. There's lots of people saying he's such a nice man, and, you know, maybe, you know, everyone has their bad days. Maybe that was a particularly very bad day, but I was trying to.
He talks about his sisters.
Yeah, and that's it,
door, doesn't it?
Sorry.
It opens that door for questioning.
Yeah, absolutely, because you know, I know no one's perfect, but that was pretty vile behaviour.
That's pretty brutal.
And you know, I feel that's important to make sure everyone's aware. You know, and, you know, I know he's only human, but that was pretty brutal, like you say. So, and I just wanted to see what your opinion. You say you've not seen it.
On that one. I'm with you on that one.
Thank you. You say you've not seen the video. However, I did receive a copyright strike from you.
Not from me, you didn't?
Well, I don't know if someone else manages your YouTube at the time.
Yeah, they do.
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Charlie Wood. Okay. At the time, I noted that David Mahoney had said, for people that were asking about the video that I put out, he said, well, don't worry, we're working on getting them taken down. I saw that on one of the social media platforms. And then, obviously, the next day I received this copyright strike. And however, the video's still up, or back up, because obviously I was talking throughout. So, you know, obviously I'd used some of your material, but it was on a fair use.
I have no problem with people using my material at all.
Yeah, I was commentating on it, and obviously highlighting bits of that video. So yeah, I appreciate that. But yeah, no, I did wonder about that, because obviously you said that, you know, you'd not watched it back, and I thought, well, you know, if you were to be managing your YouTube, did David sort of say, you know, can you this is your video, can you put this through? But obviously someone else has done it, I guess.
Well, we've got a team. Look, I wasn't ready for this when we started this, and we've now got a team. I don't know, between 6 and 10 people working behind the scenes to keep this machine going, if you like. And it started off with me just doing it on my iPhone, walking along the beach in the mornings, just because I knew what was going to happen with the collapsing of the world's economy,
Yeah.
the global financial reset. That was what it was all about. And then suddenly, I went from 37 subscribers to 100 in the first day,
Wow. Yeah.
and then from 100 to 1,000 in the first week,
Huh.
and then from 1,000 to 10,000 in a month,
Right.
then from 10,000 to 100,000 in 2 months, and it just went off like a rocket. I mean, you couldn't have made it up. And the demand, suddenly you can't believe that I'd wake up to something like 500 messages a day
Yeah.
on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and emails. Because I've never hidden away from people. People know my email address, and people know how they can get hold of me. Contact details are all out there. And then suddenly it was a barrage. And the biggest problem was I'd wake up in the night at sort of 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd answer 20 or 30. In the end, I was not getting any sleep. And suddenly I relate to people like Robbie Williams that has millions and millions and millions of fans and messages. And it's just like, I'm just little Charlie here that's getting a few hundred, but I'm getting snowed under.
Yeah, of course.
So we've got a team of people behind the scenes that look after. With my social media, Susie, who I've known for 35 years, she does the translating for the Spanish stuff. She's just overseeing it for me because I'm missing so. It's impossible. It's just physically impossible. I started off by giving a thumbs up to messages, so I've seen it. But there's a lot of messages that need more in-depth answers, and it's just physical. You can't believe you get so swamped.
Yeah. I mean, I'm at 2,500 subscribers, and I'm even swamped by messages and responding. So I can't even imagine how big a task it is for yourself.
Yeah. I was laying in bed the other day because there's one guy that's also fairly critical, but I work very well with in America. In fact, there's 2 or 3 that I remember. I said, yeah, I'll do a Zoom conversation with you, and just left it and haven't done it. And I was reading one of his messages the other day, and I thought, I haven't even replied to him. He must become really rude. And it's just late at night, I was like, oh my word, I've forgotten about him. Nino Rodriguez, I love him because he sends me messages every night. I'm going to bed, and he's getting up in the morning, and he's sending me messages about what's happening, what have you. That's nice. I like him a lot. He's just a good lad. He's gone, I've got to get you back on. I've got to get you back on because we do live on Instagram with him. That's in the middle of the night. Yeah.
Well, so I've got one more question for you, Charlie. So I know that you haven't spoken to Greg in, what did you say, 3 months?
At least.
But you do speak to David a fair bit.
I speak to Dave Mahoney all the time.
Yeah. So I just wondered if I could get an answer to this. So someone who runs one of the King John fan pages had put that basically David Mahoney had got hold of her. So this is after I put out the video showing yourself throwing a spanner in the works, as you said there afterwards on a following video. And David had made a couple of responses, video responses. And one of them, he said, I'm going to get Greg to do a Q&A with me, and we'll sort it all out, and he will talk to us. And then David had messaged the manager of one of the fan pages and said, look, get some questions from the fans. We're going to do a Q&A. And she got excited, and she wrote this out, just saying, guys, what's your questions? We actually I'm going to give them to David, and David's going to ask him. And she got an amazing response, lots of questions coming through, people really excited, giving lots of hope. Again, this hope thing, this is going to happen, and people are going, great. And people also say, well, where is Greg? Well, we know that they're going to do a Q&A, so everything's fine. Then David put out a video, as requested by all screaming babies and negative video makers, which I think I may be one of the people that's the negative video makers he's talking about. Greg's clearly explaining the story from years ago, and this is an interview with Jim Fetzer, but this is from before Greg met you guys and before the story kind of changed or things were left out of the story, as it were, and it didn't really explain why certain things hadn't been mentioned or looked at properly. But it is a video of Greg explaining about Francisco Manuel. So then someone said, a few days later, we're still waiting for this Q&A, because for a lot of people, they just wanted, 5 minutes of Greg's time to say, look, I'm still here. There've been rumors that he was murdered. There's rumors from 2014 of news articles saying that he'd been murdered as well. Some people are saying that he's a clone now. So a lot of people were kind of sort of panicking about, some really good questions and some questions that may be a bit silly, perhaps. But either way, 5 minutes of his time to come on camera and say, I'm still alive. It's the real me. Here's the scoop about the recent things that have come to light. And I was really looking forward to seeing what he had to say. But someone had asked David, where's the Zoom call? What he was coming on to clear things up, and he said, well, I added a video that he made from years ago which explains the history. And I just thought, what if you're going to promise people you're going to come on talk, because people were really excited. They all spent their time typing their questions, and it was kind of like, well, we found an old video, so we're not going to bother with it now. And then I know someone that talks to David, and David had said to them that he would ask questions if we've got for Greg, but we've heard nothing more. So David's saying that he's talking to Greg, and he's saying that Greg is just simply too busy. He's swamped under preparing to be king, I guess. But I really feel that he needs to take 5 minutes to if he's okay. I'm hoping that none of these sort of rumors are true, because I don't wish bad things upon anyone. Hopefully that he will come and explain some things. But I did wonder, you speak to David all the time. Where do you think Greg is now, and what do you think that what do you think about that he's not connected with anyone since the 11th of September, and obviously lots of controversies happened since then. What do you think? What's your view on what do you think he's really busy with, and do you think that's a fair enough?
Got no idea, because I've had no contact with Greg at all. But I've seen Greg. Saw Dave only the other day, and I speak to him every other day. But I've been so wrapped up with the global financial reset that I haven't really given any thought to Greg Hallett at all. We haven't discussed it. No idea.
So he's not told you sort of where he is, or anything. What do you think about the fact that he's not talking to his fans at the moment? I mean,
I was, until you mentioned it just then, I had no idea because it's not. I haven't been focused on him or that story at all for the last 2 or 3 months.
And that's fair enough. I just wondered if you had a bit of insight there. And
absolutely no information. I don't know where he is. I've had no reason to contact him.
Yeah,
he's a friend of mine, so I talked to him, but we haven't even discussed Greg.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Other than the fact that when I dropped the bombshell, or as I said,
bombshell piece of information.
Bombshell piece of information that I just wanted it to for people to be very clear.
Yeah.
About the story, and I agree with you that I think it would be very constructive for Dave to get Greg on and do another Zoom conversation with him. And if he's promised to do it, there's no reason why he shouldn't do that. But I can certainly, on your behalf, have a word in Dave's ear.
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate that.
Pleasure, a real pleasure.
And thank you for giving me your time today, and especially arranging it on such short notice when clearly you have a busy schedule. I really appreciate you coming on to clear things up, and you know, I've given you a few tough questions, and I've really appreciated your honest and you know, your
I
honest
appreciate your
answers.
support. I really do, and it's very important. Look, at the moment, with the swamp is being drained, so it's very important to see clarity.
Sure.
And one thing we're not seeing a lot from the government at the moment and from the mainstream media is clarity. So I respect you and I appreciate your work on trying to get things clear and get things out there in the open. I really do.
Thank you. Appreciate you saying that. So that's the end of my questions, Charlie.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, actually, you know, I've really actually enjoyed talking to you.
You too. And you've got my contact. If you have any questions at any time about anything, do not hesitate to contact me at all.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Charlie.
Thank you, Em.
Yeah, it's been great.